The camera I'm talking about today is a camera which comes from 1964. Now, 1964 is a significant year for me. Lots of things happened in 1964. 1964, the Agfa Silette Rapide. It's a camera that looks very conventional. It looks and is a 35mm camera, but it doesn't take the standard, what we now consider to be the standard cassette. It takes something called the rapid cassette. And the rapid cassette goes back to the 1930s and was developed by Agfa. It then wasn't used an awful lot by Agfa, but in the 1960s, when Kodak came out with the 126 instant slot-in cassette, Agfa realised that they had something really quite unique with their rapid system, in that it was simple to put into a camera, and I will explain how simple. The rapid cassette, here we have the back of the camera, and there's an empty cassette. Here we have the back of the camera. And there's an empty cassette here which has had a film in it, and the film was round on to here. So this is now our empty cassette. So we put the empty cassette as the take-up cassette. We then take our film, which we have loaded from a film, we have bulk loaded into this cassette, obviously in the dark. And to load it really is a very simple process. I put the film in there, I feed it onto the empty cassette. We'll just feed it in. It's as simple as that. Close, click and wind on. And we'll do that double time, and we'll then see the number 12. You only get 12 on a film, but there we are, all loaded. Now let's have a closer look at this camera. We have a zone system for focusing. We have a little church and a mountain for distance, landscape. We have a group of people, and we have two heads. So we have sort of like a zone system. We also have the meters and feet, which is very useful. So it's completely manual focusing, and the apertures are from f22 to 2.8, and we move this black round control here to adjust the aperture. So we have to work on the Sunny 16 rule, or we use a light meter. The shutter speeds are 1/25 of a second, 1/60th, 1/30th and B. So if we set it on 125, the Sunny 16 rule states that if it is sunny, we put it on f16, and the duller it is, the more we open up the stop. So if it's cloudy, we would probably put it on f8. If it was dull, 5.6. We have a nice positive shutter there. We have the wind on the back. It's a relatively, quality camera for what would have been a relatively cheap price. This was aimed at the amateur market, but the amateur that did want a little bit of control. Wanted control, but wanted a camera which was very easy to load. When we have finished the film, we simply take the now full cassette out, and that is as simple as it is. They came in a nice brown case here. Let's see how I got on when I took the camera out. The first photograph we see here is taken in Bridport, and it shows that the camera works well. The contrast maybe could be a little bit more, and the sharpness, not the sharpest, but it's not bad. It is a very passable photograph. And what I found using this camera was it definitely gave me a feeling of the 1960s, and we do get a sort of vintage look to these photographs. I think it's the lens, I think it's the type of camera. We have quite a nice range of tones. Here we have some nice greys, and the camera, I think, with a black and white film works very well. You do have to think about your settings. There is no light meter, there's no focusing aid, so although it's a cheap and simple camera, it actually really makes you think. The viewfinder is nice and bright. You only get 12 shots to film, so you haven't got a big scope to try different things. The lens at 40, I think it was 45mm, it's just slightly wider than a 50, so it's a good general lens. I did find that it was better with the sun behind you. You would get a little bit of glare when you were shooting into the sun, but you could get away with shooting into the sun, and I did on this shot here. And again, I think there's a real vintage feel with this camera. It's an extremely light camera to use. You can put it in a backpack easily. It's a good traveling camera. And if you lose it, you haven't lost a great deal. I actually really enjoyed using this camera. I used it on a Sunday morning down in Bridport in Dorset. And don't be put off if it's a rapid camera. It's a bit more of an adventure. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.